hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. We've got a fine episode for you this week. We have got a brand spanking new co-host to introduce you to in just a minute. We're going to be talking about what the General Assembly has been up to the past week or so. Kimberly is going to bring us the news you need to know in under 5 minutes. Then we're going to talk with Christina Frederick Trosper, a teacher in Knox County, member of Kentucky 120 United AFT. About whether the Kentucky GOP are waging a war on public education or if it just looks that way. And then we're going to close with a very, very special and important call to action. But first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? We know our Commonwealth has some work to do if we're going to beat back the red wave of bad politics and policy from the GOP supermajority in Frankfort. From efforts to silence Democrats and shield policy creation from public eyes, to halting all efforts to put a historic rainy day fund to work for the people, we need your help. If you want a Commonwealth that works for all of us, join Progress Kentucky. It's easy. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you spend time on social media. Just make sure to like, share, and comment on our content. If you like what you're hearing on Kernels of Truth, give us a thumbs up, leave us a review, or share out the show. If you're watching right now, just give us a thumbs up. That's that easy, wherever you are. Do they do thumbs up on YouTube? I don't know. Whatever they do, and give it a like, give it a heart. But now we're going to check in with our co-hosts. As you all know, this is not some talking head show on the internet. This is a digital demonstration for a more compassionate Commonwealth. And of course, if it's a demonstration, you got to bring your sign. So I want to know who you are, where you are, and what does your protest sign say today? And you there watching, feel free to leave a comment. Let us know what your sign says, where you're watching from. But my name is Aaron. Aaron Viles. I'm coming to you from Childsburg, a lovely deed-restricted community in Lexington, Kentucky. And my sign says today, it's kind of a protest slogan. I think it's a quote, maybe from Benjamin Franklin, or maybe it's not. Maybe the internet says it is. But it's an investment in knowledge pays the greatest interest in the theme of our show today. Kimberly, Cecil Jones, are you there?
I sure am, Aaron. How are you doing this evening?
Wonderful.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Kimberly Cecil Jones, and I'm coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky, home of the Kentucky Derby. And my protest sign says today, just maybe what we're all feeling: lawmakers, do your job. We are exhausted. Lawmakers, do your job.
I love that. Thank you, Kimberly. Yeah, we are exhausted is a good one. I think absolutely tired of this crowd in Frankfort, and the session just started. All right, and next, brand spanking new co-host, Katherine, welcome.
Hi.
So tell us, who are you? Where are you? Maybe a little of your background. Why are you a co-host? I don't know. What's your sign say?
All right. So nice to see everybody. Do people watch this or listen to it? That's a good question.
Yes, they do both.
Both. All right. So, hey, all right. So I'm in Lexington. I just got married, and I have a super cute husband that I'm kind of obsessed with. That's fun. I have a son who's 20 years old. He goes to the University of Louisville. That's where I went to. So he's carrying on that U of L tradition. So that's cool too. He's having a good time at school. I am a writer for a nonprofit. I pick up freelance pieces too. They typically tend to be about Appalachia. I'm from Martin County originally. I harp on it all the time. I also talk a lot about nonprofit work, nonprofit workers, and how much we do, and kind of gap fill where the government sometimes drops the ball. So those are two things that you'll hear me bring up and go on about a lot. I spend most of my time between Frankfort and Lexington. We go back and forth based on my job, my husband's job. I have 2 cats. And I made a protest sign, and I actually made one because I didn't know we were just supposed to talk about it.
That's awesome that you made one. You can make them. It's absolutely
the lighting here is terrible. But my protest sign says, if you can read this protest sign, thank a teacher. Yeah, I think that's pretty topical for now. I can read because I went to school, and so can the rest of y'all, I'm guessing. So I think we really need to take this topic at hand seriously and lean in and support our public school teachers, because without them, it doesn't make sense to me why this is happening. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. I guess that's it. I got involved with this show once before. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a big participant in a lot of stuff that goes on in Eastern Kentucky. And there was some really horrific flooding. And my wonderful, sweet neighbors and friends of my heart, Kit and Nate, who I'm sure have been on the show before, and I think Nate maybe does the sound or music, invited me to come on the show and talk about the relief efforts and talk about ways people could donate and support. So this is my second time with Kernels of Truth, and I'm excited. I hope to come back, maybe once a month or so, as much as y'all will have me, and just keep talking about the state as a whole, not just the Golden Triangle and not just the East and not just the West. It's kind of we're all in this together kind of situation.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Karen.
Yes.
I have
yes,
to
Kimberly.
stop right there. I'm so glad that we have Katherine. We are like U of L alumni here. I feel the love. Thank you so much for someone else that can stand up for the University of Louisville. I've been slamming my arms around by myself. Thank you so much, Katherine.
Well, they're frustrating right now. I was a huge Dr. Benaputi fan. I'm really frustrated with the whole athletics department. My husband works for UK athletics, so we got a lot of witty banter that goes on in this house. But yes, we're L1C4 for life for sure.
Mm-hmm. And what you gonna say about that, Mr. Aaron Files?
Yeah, I don't, I live in Lexington. I've been to some UK games. I have no true allegiances. I just know that they put on a good show, and it's closer to me than any, Louisville games. So
they do great. And this year's Kentucky basketball team is incredible. I was at Vandy last night, and they're so fun, and it's great. Like I have no hate for the Cats, but I do love my Cards.
Well, I will say this: we're really glad to have Katherine, not just for this kind of school, the school colors there, but for the perspective you're going to bring. Obviously you're somebody who's paid attention to politics for a really long time. You've been engaged as a volunteer and as somebody who's helped craft campaigns. And I know that I first kind of ran across you when I'm pretty sure you forced your son to volunteer for the Andy Bashir campaign, and he was a wonderful, active participant for my organization.
Forced is rough, but okay.
Maybe it's a little hyperbole, but you knew that he was okay with, he definitely knew you were okay with him taking that role.
He's been knocking doors since he was 7.
Yeah, train him up right.
That's how you get people elected, is by talking to your neighbors, and we know that.
Train him up right. That is for sure. So, and then we were really glad to have you on in the wake of the flooding, and you sharing your perspective on what was going on in Eastern Kentucky. So that was really, really helpful, and you were a very popular guest. So people really liked your appearance. So we're really glad to have you more involved with Progress Kentucky and more involved with Kernels of Truth. We do need to figure this out. Have you been made an official Kentucky Colonel yet? Is that on your resume?
Yeah, so I'm a Kentucky Colonel twice. The first time they spelled my name wrong with a C, so then they just sent it back through and spelled it with a K. Like, I am a Kentucky Colonel. I think it was with Steve Bashir.
Okay.
And yeah, I am. Okay.
We're not gonna bash the institution. We're gonna laud it here on Kernels of Truth, because this actually think we're all of us are Kentucky Colonels. Got it proudly framed, because my wife, as a Kentucky native, was very excited when she saw that I'd become a Kentucky Colonel.
I don't even know where my certificate is anymore. I got mine in 1988 underneath Wilkerson, Governor Wilkerson, which is nothing to write home about.
All right, so super glad to have you. Let's get into the show. We've got some news to cover, people. So we're going to do news of the week right now, because we're going to talk about a lot of Kentucky politics, and it's got to be week with a WEAK for sure. So this story I'm excited to talk about. Andy Beshear went very big on education this year with his budget. He a historic investment with universal pre-K funded, all day kindergarten funded, raises for all workers in the education system, not just teachers, but really a historic investment in education pre-K through 12, which really phenomenal, right? Important for us. 17% increase in SEEK funding, 81% increase in transportation funding, which, as a parent with a kid, with kids in that kind of K through 12 system, the transportation has been a mess, right? They're like constantly canceling bus lines, leaving parents scrambling. So I think it's really important the state is making a commitment to this, or the state would like to make, or the executive of the state would like to make a commitment. And also this 5% pay increase, really important, because we know that, teachers do not make a huge amount of money. Currently, Kentucky is 42nd in the nation for starting teacher pay. 40%, 42nd in the nation. That's horrible. We need to do better. We can do better. And thankfully, because of the rainy day fund, because of the, kind of federal investments in our state, we can do this. This is absolutely something that we can fund. The problem, though, is that the GOP dominated legislature is the one that actually passes the budget bills. And what we've heard so far, the Senate president said that he's, quote, not a fan of pre-K. The GOP education budget reflects that, with no funding for the pre-K, also no transportation funding increase, no school employee raises, no social and emotional learning funding, which Andy has in his budget. Of course, social and emotional learning, really important, critical need in these kind of COVID crazy times, especially with, the year that kids spent learning remotely. So you might wonder, though, why do we even know what the GOP budget looks like? That's because they broke tradition, slapped the face of the governor, and released their own state budget ahead of the governor, right? So even though the governor is the one who runs the cabinets, right? So most of the state budget requests come from cabinet spending. Who runs the cabinets? That's the governor. He's the one who hires them. He's the one who knows what's going on. He's the one who should understand their budget needs. The budget requests don't go to the legislature. They go to the governor. So how in the world did the legislature come up with their own executive agency budget ahead of the governor? They did it as a power play. They did it as a slap in the face. They did it because they're a bunch of jerks. It's in fact crazy, right? So if you look at it, there's a great quote from, I think Joe Sonka caught this, talking to a state legislative representative, asked them, hey, you're not going to submit a budget. Representative Petrie, he asked if he was going to file a state budget bill ahead of Governor Beshear's budget. He said he wouldn't do that. He said that would be pretty crazy. And then he filed HB1, the 2-year state budget bill, ahead of the governor. So basically lied to the media, which that's what these GOP guys like to do. And then, did, something that's really rather unprecedented and a kind of poor form for the GOP, but that's what you get with this crowd. So, Kimberly, you got any thoughts about this?
Of course I do. And I just want to make note that when the president, he states, and we're not talking about Biden, but of course, the House here, when he's talking about, I wrote down in my notes that we should not spend any extra money for pre-K. And that's the reason being is because he probably failed it. I mean, everybody knows that education is key. Education is key for your health, for your wealth, for your sustainability of life. Education is king. So why would the Republicans in Frankfort want to block anything? And when you're saying that our teachers are getting paid some of the lowest salaries in the United States of America, that's a problem. they're there to teach our children to do the best that they can, so that they can go off and be productive citizens of society and have knowledge and wisdom and the education that is due to them as an American citizen. And they're trying to block everything. And then also, in addition to that, you know, a slap in the face is not really what I thought about it. I just thought it was really like a FU finger to our governor, who has done everything possible for every Kentuckian to try to have this budget together before he presents his. They have been nothing but disrespectful, nothing but short of being just criminal minded in what they've been doing with our governor. So I think everybody knows how I feel about the Republicans here in Kentucky. I wish there was just a couple that had half a mind to do the right thing, and maybe we can get back on board to doing the people's business.
Yeah. So the fact that Representative Petrie said it would be pretty crazy for the GOP to pre-file their own budget bill and then the next day pre-filed their own budget bill, you know, I guess pretty crazy is it's on brand for the Kentucky GOP, really, is what it comes down to. Katherine, do you have any thoughts about those fine representatives in Frankfort?
I mean, I have. Oh my gosh, I always have thoughts. I think what I would probably want to lean in on in this is I don't need to say anything else about the elected representatives making these decisions. Like, we've said it all. People way smarter and way funnier than me have said all of the things that I would never think of to say, but I'm so glad they said it. You just scroll through Twitter for 6 minutes and you'll see all the best takes. What concerns me, and that this is all I've got to say, is I'm a parent, right? I've got kids and stepkids, and I know 100 kids from raising my own, and it boggles the mind, and I cannot make sense of it. No matter, even if I try to look at it critically, which I really, really try to do a lot. I try very hard to look at stuff critically. I cannot understand how disinvesting in education in any capacity at all, be that not funding pre-K, be that, cutting teacher salaries, shallowing the pool of folks who want to sign up to be public school educators. It literally hurts you, the people making the decisions. It's going to hurt your children. It's going to hurt your grandchildren. It's going to hurt the people who may become the doctors and nurses who take care of you when you're older and need more. It hurts the people that will become engineers that take care of the roads to make them safe for you to drive. It hurts everything. It's a domino effect that is traceable. There's data done on it. And I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I mean, obviously, study after study just shows that pre-K, investing in pre-K pays for itself, right? The long run, we're just doing better as a state, and our state is not doing great. I mean, we're doing better right now than we're with Andy Bashir's leadership than we're under Bevin's leadership, for sure. We're coming out of the COVID crisis quicker and better, stronger. But in terms of where our workforce is, where the health outcomes are of our state, we got to do better. And those investments in pre-K, that starts it all off. I don't know. I agree, Katherine. I don't know why the Kentucky GOP would present an education budget that is bare bones at a time with historic rainy day funds. We have got the money to do the right thing for our kids. Why wouldn't we?
Well, you know what my mom used to say? My mom used to say, you know what, Kimberly? You cannot think rational for irrational folk. You would drive yourself crazy trying to do that. And here I am still trying to understand, but they're irrational. We'll never understand how they think.
I think that's wise advice from your mom. That's probably one of the smartest things I've ever heard, actually. It is.
All right, so we're going to move on. We got a federal story to cover. And I'll be honest, we were a little bit torn about what federal story we wanted to cover. The most significant and important one is the one you're going to hear about. But as we were making decisions about how Kentucky politicians in DC were having an influence at the federal stage, Rand Paul decided it was time for round 5 with Dr. Fauci. But this time, Dr. Fauci came came ready for Rand and shut him down. Look on Twitter. It took up Twitter. You definitely, I'm sure you saw it in the national media. Look at MSNBC. I think every single host did a thing on Fauci versus Rand, and I think we can all agree that Dr. Fauci came in ahead. But the more substantive issue, I think Katherine is going to lead us through a really important one at the federal level happening right now.
So it's just, we don't even have to talk about it forever because it's Mitch McConnell being Mitch McConnell. That's it. That's all I need to say. And I guarantee everybody listening or watching just rolled their eyes and, kind of took a collective deep breath because we all know what that means. So, voting rights are under attack. Voting accessibility is under attack, especially in some of the southern states, as is so often the fucking case. And Schumer, is in there, swinging, trying to make sure that people are allowed to extend excuse-free absentee voting, which I think is so important. If you want to vote by mail, it's fine. Some states have started drive-through voting. A lot of it was COVID inspired, people getting creative so people would get out and vote. Well, it turns out, imagine this, that when you make it easier for folks to vote, more people get out and vote. Oh my God, that's crazy. And the Republicans discovered also that when you make it easier to vote, extend voting hours, excuse-free absentee voting, all those different kinds of things, poor people get out and vote. And a lot of times poor people, unfortunately, are communities of color and single moms and people that typically may not have the opportunity to get out and vote because they don't have a car or they can't get off work. All these really genuine, practical, serious reasons that people can't make it to the polls, all of a sudden they could. And when they did that, Democrats started to win because marginalized communities, as we know, tend to vote for Democratic candidates. The Republicans are smart. They're savvy. They saw what was happening. So they're doing everything that they can to pump the brakes and take away these allowances to make it harder. Instead of having, a state issued ID, some of the suggestions were you could have, I think I've, read utility bills, any kind of photo ID from your work with an address on it. Just anything that can show who you are who you are. You're not voting for your dead great grandma. That's fine. And the Republicans didn't like that either. So they're in the Senate, our friends, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, best friends, are holding the whole thing up, of course. And McConnell is saying that this is the equivalent of the big lie. This is the Democrats' big lie that voting rights are under attack. Of course they are. You're trying to take away voting accessibility from people who have never been able to get there before because they have to work 10-hour shifts at the factory, catch the bus to the poll place. They've got their kids with them. It's anyway, trying to stay calm and factual here. It's a big holdup in the Senate. And while Mitch McConnell, we love to hate him, I really feel like, a lot of our energies need to be directed at Sinema and Manchin. That's just if they would do the things that their constituents elected them to do, we wouldn't be in this problem, right? I think the president and the vice president are going down to Georgia this month, maybe this week, to talk to him down there about, getting all this in line. I personally wish Stacey Abrams was the president because everybody would listen to her. Stacey Abrams and Katie Porter, by the way, that's my dream ticket. Or maybe Cori Bush. I can't decide. That's another conversation for another day. Anyway, it's Mitch being Mitch, threatening to throw a wrench in the entire Senate voting process again if Democrats continue to pursue this path of, voting accessibility. It's the same old story. We've heard it 1,000 times. We're going to hear it 1,000 more times until he is out of office. I don't think anybody should be surprised. I think people that are shocked by this have not been paying attention. if you are shocked and you haven't been paying attention, this is a great time to start because you can see what is typical for McConnell's office and for his position. I don't know why he hates us. I don't know why he hates us, but he does. He hates poor people the worst, and he hates his own constituents. And I don't know why. I would love to have 20 minutes with that man to just ask him why. And that's it. That's just kind of it's Mitch being Mitch and using the big lie only to turn it around like Democrats are trying to derail democracy by allowing everyone to be able to vote. It's insane and I hate it. And I'm sorry that it's happening.
Yeah, it's outrageous. And I think Manchin and Sinema absolutely get a lot of attention here, and I think they should. But, Manchin made this big play about, look, I'm not going to, change the rules of the Senate to get voting rights through. I think voting rights are really important, and I think we can find bipartisan support to do it. That's his, his cause, his bipartisan support for things. And he did a Freedom to Vote Act, which was a compromise, which, he got some support from, I think, Lisa Murkowski. One Republican said, yeah, let's do this. So that's not quite what we need, though. And of course, because everything gets filibustered, you need 60 votes to move anything. Although the wrinkle is you can change the Senate rules with 51 votes. So you can change the rules so you can't filibuster this specific voting rights bill, and all of a sudden you just need 51 votes to do that, right? So that's the path forward that a lot of Democrats are hopeful we could do. Manchin still says no, and of course, I'm sure that Lisa Murkowski wouldn't do it. But again, the reason that this, we like to blame Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema because they won't, bend on these issues, and I get that, but there was a time when Republicans would actually support the Voting Rights Act reauthorization. I think both Bushes happily signed it. There were a number of folks like Lindsey Graham supported it last time around, right? And now it's become this highly partisan issue because the Republicans are getting less and less popular, and that kind of white base that elects Republicans is getting to be a smaller and smaller piece of the pie, and so they know that their only path to retaining power is to make it harder for people of color to vote. And it's crass and it's disgusting, and voting should be a right, not a privilege. And it's offensive and it's outrageous. So I don't know. Kimberly, any thoughts on that?
My only thought and my only thing that I'm going to say is voting rights are human rights, which are each and every American's rights. That's all I'm going to say about that.
All right. So we're going to move into the news you need, Kimberly's news you need in under 5 minutes. And I've got my timer. We're going to see how we move through these stories.
I'm not, where's Doug Price? Where's Dougie Fresh when you need him?
He offered to time.
Where is Dougie Fresh when you need Dougie Fresh on here? Because I don't know if I can trust it.
You don't trust me? Come on.
I don't know. I don't know if I can trust you, but I've got a lot of news that I've got to put in these couple of minutes. So I'm ready to start right now. I'm ready if you're ready.
Well, let's do it.
Okay. First of all, let's talk about Governor Beshear has stated yesterday that every county, all 120 counties in Kentucky are now in the red zone as far as the COVID-19 is concerned. Today, our governor stated that we had an additional 11,232 COVID cases, which sets a record in Kentucky. Also, a woman that was running for Thomas Massey, well, she's running right now for Thomas Massey's seat, and years ago in 2019, about 3 years ago, she falsely got up on stage and rushed up there and said that Matt Bevin had been reelected as governor. And we know that that was a lie. She is from Covington and she's running right now for District 4 for the House. And her name is Alyssa McDowell. So you guys remember that name, Alyssa McDowell. She cannot get in. Tell everybody she's like a cook, okay? She cannot win. So whatever you got to do, Alyssa McDowell cannot win. Also, I want to talk about really, really quick that here it's a nonpartisan bill. Can you guys believe that? A nonpartisan bill in Frankfort. It's House Bill 44, and it's about Kentucky students that they may be able to be out on excused absences, not more absences, but excused absences for mental health days. So we'll see how that goes. And it's getting a lot of traction from Democrats and Republicans as well. Now, also, if you've got some time, make a couple of moments to give some blood. The American Red Cross and the Kentucky Blood Association is saying that right now we're only living with about a day's supply of blood. We're running really, really low. So call your local American Red Cross, get that appointment, and give some blood, because you definitely could save a life. And in Jefferson County, I just love it. I just always got something going on right here in Jefferson County, where there was a Jefferson County public school teacher at Moore High School here in Louisville, Kentucky. And he was seen in a viral video of fighting a student. And he was white and the student was black. The student was 16 years old. And as we know right now, Mr. William Bennett, which is the teacher, he has been fired because he triggered the student, the 16-year-old, by saying he was just another black boy teen that had gotten shot. So what? Because this particular teen that he was fighting had been shot before. So also just want to let you know that inflation is up. You probably have been seeing this right now in your grocery stores. Some of the shelves are empty because of the supply chain challenge that we have, and also that inflation is up 7%. It hasn't been up this high since 1982. And if you're going right now to get some ground beef, I don't know, you might want to get plant-based, because right now it's about 13% up on your pricing, and your milk is up about 4%. Also, Let's Go Brandon, a funny little meme that was nasty and vulgar, is now a campaign ad for many Republicans across this here United States of America. And that's my news in under 5.
And in fact, it was under 5, well under 5. You had a full minute and 10 seconds to go. Very impressive. You got through a lot there. Some important stories. Folks said, "Wow, the holy crap" in the comments. Definitely some eye-opening stuff. So next we are going to be. That was news of the week. So thanks so much for bringing that to us, co-hosts. So we're going to be speaking soon with Christina Frederick Trosper, Knox County teacher and member of United 120 AFT. But before we bring her on, I want to remind our audience of the 2 ways Progress Kentucky is encouraging folks to help out with the Western Kentucky relief and recovery effort. There's horrible tornado impact, which, clearly people are still in the throes of it and trying to recover from it. The governor's launched Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund, which has raised a ton of money and is a great place to put resources if you've not donated yet. But our partners with the Commonwealth Alliance Donor Table, the Kentucky Civic Engagement Table, and Hood to the Holler have started a mutual aid fund to be directed to grassroots groups supporting short-term and long-term mutual aid and disaster relief for the communities impacted by the recent tornadoes. They're prioritizing the groups that serve Kentuckians who may otherwise be neglected by the relief efforts, particularly Black, Indigenous, people of color, refugee, immigrant, poor, working class Kentuckians. You can make a donation there. It would be much appreciated. And I lived in New Orleans, as I said before. I was there through the Hurricane Katrina disaster. I was an advisor to a similar grassroots-focused fund, and it really was a critical component of a complete response to community needs. People slip through the cracks of the establishment relief efforts, whether that's the Red Cross or FEMA. It's really important the groups on the ground have the resources to meet the needs that they will inevitably be raised and exposed. So that's a couple things you can do to help out. And now really, really excited to bring on our guest, Christina Frederick Trosper, who I believe has been teaching for 20 years in Knox County, and is going to share with us what the heck is going on in Frankfort with these bills that are targeting things like CRT or changing where curriculum comes from. So Christina, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So what is going on? Would you say the Kentucky GOP is waging war on educators? What are they doing?
It's very much been a war on educators. We've been seeing this for quite some time, even before Bevan was in office. So I've come to discover that for the last 3 or 4 sessions, Senate Bill 1 probably needs to be renamed as the Anti-Public Education Bill. And you alluded to the CRT bills. And we were prepared in AFT, in our union, to really fight back on, I think it's House Bill 14, House Bill 18, what we call the teacher gag bills. Teachers not being, I'm a social studies teacher. I'd have a hard time teaching the Holocaust or teaching imperialism or teaching the topics that my students need to know according to those bills. So we were very prepared and had messaging ready. And we were ready to go and pounce with our allies against these CRT bills. Then we saw Senate Bill 1. Senate Bill 1, I believe, is the true CRT bill. And we've discussed this within our union. We've polled our members. And the reason for that is that it's taken the curriculum out of the hands of the site-based decision-making council. Anybody that's went to school, public school in Kentucky, has benefited, especially in my area, from CARA, with the Rose case that made sure that we're equally funding our schools, that just because you're poor, you're from a poor area or a poor community, that you don't start in the hole with your education. So as we began to look at Senate Bill 1, we saw some red flags. And the big red flag is that the teachers now, who right now, site-based decision-making councils, which are made up of elected parents who are elected by the other parents, teachers who are elected by other teachers, that is who normally the experts are that are going to go over the curriculum. Like, I could talk for months about the curriculum of social studies, but you don't want me dealing with high school math. Like, that's a no-no. So there's that issue that we began to see, okay, why are they wanting to take the curriculum out of the hands of people who are chosen by their peers from their local community schools and put it in the hand of a superintendent who already is having enough, has enough on their plate trying to run an entire school district? So we thought, well, that's odd. And then we really got to thinking about it and really got to discussing it. And we were like, just floored. So we really started as a union looking at Senate Bill 1 piece by piece. What would happen if you took away the purview of site-based councils, not only to decide curriculum, but also to decide budgetary concerns? And so it completely changes everything. So the teachers, the principals, and the parents in the school are as a consultative role, which is just a nice way of saying, you can tell us what we think, but we don't care. And that became an issue for us. We also began to look at how it would affect schools with higher minority populations. I live in an area that is predominantly Caucasian. I think it's like 99 or 98% of my students are white Caucasian. So this wouldn't impact me so much as it would other schools. So right now, the law states that if you have 8% minority group, then you have to elect a minority parent to represent that group and a minority teacher. So by doing this, they're taking away teacher voice. Now they're taking away minority voices. So what we see is that they're completely taking the hands of curriculum, how we teach, away from us. And this is where it gets really ironic. The what and how and what we teach are standards. Those are decided by the Kentucky legislature. They voted on the what that we teach. The curriculum is just, how do I deliver those standards? How do I teach those standards? So if you want to get into it, if you're talking about indoctrination and you're talking about CRT, it's in the what, not in the how. So again, these people do not understand. And, Senator Schickel, he was a bus driver, so therefore he must know everything about curriculum. And so that was weird. And I watched the committee meeting and on the Senate House committee meeting. And one of the things that struck me is that we as educators, we take pride in our craft. We don't talk about our craft a lot to people outside because it sounds a lot of times like we're talking a foreign language. But Senator Schickel said what was happening, and the reason why they needed this bill is because if a student goes from one school to another within a district, and say they're in 3rd grade, school A may be teaching one thing or teaching it a particular way, and school B is teaching it differently. Okay, that's not true, because we're all teaching the same standards. We may just be teaching different methods of how to master those standards. So what we do, because we all know that our students are mobile, not only within our own districts, but also outside of districts. So what we do within our district every year, we align our curriculum. That means we look at the standards and we say, okay, from kindergarten through 12th grade, here's what they have to know at each level. And here's how we're going to do that. Here's the daily learning target. Here's the activity we're going to do. It's called vertical alignment. We also do horizontal alignment, where we look at across the curriculum. So I teach world history. I'm looking at what I'm teaching. How does that go into US? How does that deal with our freshman courses? This is what we do. This is our craft. And we do this every year. So Senator Schickel, his idea is that these things aren't happening. Well, the problem with that is, if those things are not happening in any district within the Commonwealth, it's because the superintendent is not having that in place. The superintendent has not hired good directors. The superintendent is not overseeing the instructional outcomes within their schools. So his reasoning was, this superintendent's not doing their job by not allowing vertical and horizontal alignment, but let's give them all of the curriculum decisions. Let's take it completely away from the experts. So we began to look at that, and we were thinking, like, what is happening here? Like, in what world would you look and say, okay, you are a custodian at a hospital, therefore you can do brain surgery? That makes no sense. And that's how they treat education in Kentucky. And we have been at a war. We've been at a war for our pensions. As we know, we fought tooth and toenail with Governor Bevin. We were successful in that because of Andy Beshear, because we had an attorney general in him. Had Daniel Cameron been our attorney general, that would not have happened. We're looking at, last year, still fighting our pensions. We saw that new hires are no longer in our pension system. It just seems a slap in the face. And then this year, now you're going into our actual classrooms, telling us that we're being too political within our classrooms. So in order to allow the public some say in our curriculum, we're going to take it away from the public. It just doesn't make sense to me. There's also been Facebook groups that have popped up and said, hey, we didn't even know these site-based councils existed. They've been in existence in Kentucky since 1990 with care over forum. And if you're not attending site-based meetings, if you're not attending PTA meetings, you're not going to parent-teacher conference, you're not showing up at board meetings, you're not talking to your board members about the concerns that you have for your students, you definitely don't need to be deciding the curriculum. And so as a union, we began to think about, how it not only it would impact the teachers within our union, but how is that going to impact our community, our greater community? And I don't understand, if you have an entire political party who says local control all the time, like, okay, sure, but, I don't understand that. They're always, treating education as if it's a business. This is not a business. These are kids. And we have to meet their needs, and we have to meet them where they are, which is another issue. I think it was Sally Sugg who said that our entire, when she testified about Senate Bill 1, that our entire system of accountability is set up on growth. No, it's not. Teachers look at growth. Teachers look at those things. Politicians don't. And so when we're saying we are the experts, we have 2 and 3 degrees. As a social studies teacher, I have a degree in education, and I have a degree in history, and I have a minor in some other stuff. Everything that I have goes into my craft, and they are treating it as if anybody can make that decision. And the other problem is curriculum is usually teacher generated. There's no canned curriculum that we can purchase, because when you buy a canned curriculum, you are beholden to that curriculum. So they want to make sure, are you following the curriculum? It doesn't matter if you're meeting the needs of your students, but you were supposed to be on this learning target and you're up here, and why are you not doing that? And you're going to mess this up, and because it's all about the program. So again, it becomes less and less about our students. And so Senate Bill 1, while it does not discuss CRT, it does not discuss, any of those teacher gag bills. That's exactly what that is. When I was watching the Senate education hearing that day, the committee hearing, somebody said about curriculum. And one of the senators, I'm not sure which one it was, said, yes, curriculum. People are very interested in curriculum. And that's when my ears perked up. And that's when we started looking at it. So you talk about the politicization of our classrooms. The Board of Education is the only people who would be overseeing the superintendent. That's it. And we know they are politicians. If you have a conservative board, they're going to buy a more conservative curriculum. If you have a more liberal board, they're going to buy a more liberal curriculum. And by taking the budgets away from the schools, by taking our curriculum decisions away from our schools, it is a way to completely decimate CARA. It is a way to silence voices, especially those of marginalized and especially within our poorer communities. So while they're not saying it's CRT, if you read it, it's CRT. Because the CRT bills that they have pre-filed, 14 and 18, those, say the things that we're seeing nationwide, like you can't talk about equity or you can't do those things. To me, that was a red herring. That was to draw our attention there, and they put in Senate Bill 1. Because think about it, it is Senate Bill 1. They're saying this is the priority of the Senate this session. And it's that priority because they don't know what we do. They think I walk into my room and I open up a textbook and I read out of it. And that could be further from the truth. Education, I've been in it for 20 years. And I can tell you the way I teach now versus the way I taught 20 years ago is night and day. I've really apologized to the kids that had me 15 years ago because I'm a way better teacher now. But it's a complete war. And not even, I feel like it's a war just on teachers. I think they are angry. I think they are angry that we were the deciding factor in electing Andy Beshear. And I think they will punish us every day for that. And I don't normally think that way. Like, I like to think that people are rational, but they're not. It's just like when we were talking about, President Stivers, Senator Stivers, Bobby, as I like to refer to him, because he doesn't deserve to be called Robert. He's from Clay County. He's from the next county, just above me. And he talks about not liking pre-K. We benefited from the war on poverty. And one of those benefits is Head Start. So we have pretty much universal pre-K here. So he doesn't care. And he doesn't have to go home to his constituents because they don't understand that. Like it took me years before I realized that I could send my kids to preschool and didn't have to pay for it. And other people did. Like, I didn't understand that, because around here, we're all poor. But I think the war on education, it can't only be this counter attacks that we're having to mount every single day. It feels like. The problem is teachers cannot continue to fight this on our own. We need allies. We need people in the community. We need business owners. We need the Chamber of Commerce. We need people coming out and saying, this cannot continue. And I'm waiting for that day. We've been shouldering this burden for 4 years minimum. I mean, boots on the ground for 4 years in Frankfort, at meetings, calling, grassroots groups like 120, Kentucky United, which is for public employees. We've been shouldering this burden, and we need people to help us. I think I put a thing on Facebook today, and I said, teachers, we're fighting a pandemic, we're fighting our own trauma, our students' trauma, and we're fighting our legislature. I don't normally look like this, but I do right now because I'm a mother, and I have 2 young children. I have an adult son. And the fight is just, I'll keep fighting till my hair falls out, my teeth fall out, whatever. But for your average teacher and your average citizen in Kentucky right now, we're just trying to get through. We're just trying to get from one day to the next. And Senate Bill 1, make no mistake, it is the CRT bill. They did it without having to call it CRT because I think they're trying to keep the crazies like Savannah Maddox. I'm sorry, we call her Covanna. I do anyway myself. So sorry. They're trying to keep her quiet. They're trying to keep Southworth quiet. They're trying to keep the crazies in their party quiet and not calling it CRT. But as someone who's educated and anybody who can even read, you begin to say, why are they wanting them to look at why are you taking curriculum out of the hands of the experts? And the only reason why is because they think that we are teaching CRT, which is completely insane. Because if we were teaching CRT, it would be in the standards that they passed, and it would probably be in the social studies standards. Let's be honest. That's where it's going to come from. Our standards were just passed in 2019. The same people who now say that we're teaching CRT passed the standards that I'm teaching. So There we go.
it's It's a little outrageous. I think you're probably right that they're trying to sneak it in, but sneaking it in by not specifically spelling it out in the legislation is it's a smart move, right? Because
It is, yeah.
if you think the legislature's not too brilliant, wait till you meet their constituents, right? So
Yeah.
the people who vote and send them back there, that's a problem. We need to make sure that we're having more conversations about connecting the dots for people, because we
Yes.
all want good schools. I'm a parent. All our co-hosts here are parents. We want good schools so that our kids, can go out and have a good life and can help the Commonwealth's economy by, having a job, starting companies. Andy will not stop talking about the amazing economic activity in our Commonwealth right now and the jobs that are coming in. Well, those jobs are not going to come in if our education continues to, bump along the bottom. And I want to just say thank you to the teachers who are dealing with, as you said, pandemic, attacks, kids who, have gone through a pandemic as well, right? So there's definitely, I think, some challenges for kids dealing with this. And, it seems like every problem we come up with, we just, throw it to the teachers to deal with. And I don't think that's right. I think we do need to stand with our teachers. And I just wanted to say, how much we appreciate you coming on, Christina, sharing your perspective and the work that you're doing every day in the classroom. And that, because again, we know it's hard work. We know what our kids are like. We know that it can't be easy for you. All right. Any questions from our co-hosts? Kimberly, as a mom, anything you want to say? Katherine, as a mom?
I just remember here with the JCPS, we were District 15, that's all of Jefferson County, and I was the membership chair for the PTA for 2 years. And my poster was in every school, or it was supposed to be in every school. But you've got a lot of people right here, administrators and teachers, that don't want to teach CRT, or can we just call it what it is? It's just history. It's just truth.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, principals included, did not put my poster up in their schools because of the color of my skin. And that worries me as well when we're talking about our educators. But I guess it's always been that way. But today, I don't think I could be a teacher.
It's hard.
One of these kids would have me in prison. I'm telling you. The way they talk, the way their parents talk.
Listen, the kids, I love my job. Like, first and foremost, I love it. I love that every day I walk in that building, I never know what I'm going to get. So I'm a hyper person, so I love it. I'm kind of a control freak, and I know that sounds odd, but today I was teaching imperialism to my students, and we were talking about African imperialism, specifically Europeans going into Africa. And my students have a really hard time when I'm explaining to them the things that Europeans did. And so we did a little preview today, and we talked about some things. And I told them, I said, we look at white man's burden, and we talk about how horrible that is, and, what that is and what that means. And, and because I'm a white woman and I'm at a white school, I have to flip that perspective for them to understand that. Like, you're a Christian, Christianity is the popular religion here. And, and I go through all that stuff. I said, now imagine if somebody came in here and said, your religion's wrong, your language is wrong, the way you talk is wrong, and we're going to steal all your resources. And they're like, well, that's crazy. And I'm like, okay, so you understand, and I make a connection to, what we've experienced here in Appalachia with, the constantly taking of our resources and why we're poor. We're not poor because we're dumb. We're poor because everything's been stolen from us. And, that's a really kind of fine line to tread with your kids, because you don't want to put your perspective in there, but you need them to know that while some good things may have come out of Imperial, like healthcare, medical care, center technology, at what expense do you do that? And that's a really hard thing to tackle with students in a way that you allow them to think about it. And that's what the Republican Party, especially the Kentucky GOP, does not want to happen. They do not want our students to think critically. They don't want to look at the bad things that we've done and say, okay, those are mistakes. We don't need to do those anymore. They want me to teach a propaganda class. They want me to say everything the United States has done and everything every white country in the world has done has been great and wonderful. And I'm not going to do that. And that's where the problem is.
Well, I'm glad you're not going to do that. And I'm glad that you are shepherding our kids through these important concepts. And I hope our viewers are in fact standing up for teachers and are solid, dependable allies. But your call to action and your call for assistance, I think, was very clear. We heard it. We're going to echo it. We're going to share your the 120 stuff, or the AFT stuff, to make sure people see what y'all are going through. Thank you for your work, Katherine. Any final questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but I was just going to say, just to like clean it up, Christina, could you repeat like some ways that people can get involved and help? Like, I've followed 120 and AFT on Twitter since they started, and they're really informative accounts. You can, like, especially on Facebook, like, y'all do such a good job of being really punctual about this is what happened today, this is what's going to happen tomorrow. But yeah, maybe if you could just repeat some ways that folks that don't know how to get involved or are not sure where to begin, like how can they help this effort?
The easiest thing to do, the absolute easiest thing to do, you don't even have to leave your house. You pick up your phone, you dial 1-800-372-7181. That's the operators in Frankfort. Yes, I have the number memorized. You can call that number. It's these really nice people that answer the phone, and you say, hey, I heard that this is going on. And they'll say, would you like to leave a message for your senator or your rep? If you don't know who it is, they'll tell you based on your address. If not, you can leave it for everybody in the legislature. You tell them what you want. I want this passed. I want Andy Beshear's budget of education passed. Please do that for us. Also, I'm against anything that takes curriculum out of the hands of teachers. It's that simple. And that message can be given directly to those legislators, whether it's your legislator or whether it's the entire body. They have to hear our voice. We can't go and rally like we did 4 years ago because of the pandemic. And I completely understand that. Call. You can call as many times a day as you want to. You can email. You can go on lrc.ky.gov, and that will give you all the email addresses to your state senators and your state representatives. You can, maybe go into your local schools and ask them, what do you need me to do? Do you need me to help with anything? Call your local school board members. Tell them that they need to support this, and they need to support the budget, and they need to not support the curriculum. Call your superintendents. Leave messages with them, emails with them, that you do not think that site-based decision-making councils should be relegated to just a fluffy committee, that teachers still are the experts. Calling, emailing, talking to your friends, having them call. That is the most important thing that we can do for anything, but especially in Kentucky. Especially right now with what we're going on. We're in a long session, and I encourage people to call 3 and 4 times a day. And the operators are really, really nice. So if you can call that number, if you can email, those are probably the easiest things to do. And, just educating your friends about it. Looking it up and educating your friends as best you can, because we need our communities to see what is really going on.
Absolutely. They're the nicest people in the world. So make the phone call. We put it on there. It's on the screen right now. If you're watching, if you're not watching, I'll repeat it for you. 1-800-372-7181. They are the nicest humans. You don't need to know who your senator is or who your representatives. They'll tell you based on your address, and you can leave a message to them. And it matters. It absolutely. The legislators see the response, and they pay attention. So please do call tomorrow. Support Andy's education budget. Oppose SB 1 and the anti-CRT bills as well. So good stuff. Thanks again, Christina, for joining us and for short notice coming on the show and helping us work through what we need to do to stand with teachers for better education for our Commonwealth.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm going to listen to this podcast all the time now. You got.
Awesome.
I wish she was my teacher. Can I go back to school?
Much fun. We would have.
I'm going to send her a bag of apples.
Oh,
Her favorite student.
Not a day of apples, a bag of apples for every
a
single
bottle
day.
of bourbon.
No, I hate bourbon. I hate bourbon.
All right, we'll fix that. We'll find out.
They got the apple kind now. I forgot.
Listen, I'm a moonshine girl. Give me some good flavor.
There we go. The best moonshine I ever had in my whole life comes from Wolfe County.
What they flavor it with?
The best lemon.
Oh, listen, I have a friend who does peach, and
Yeah.
it's really dangerous because he flavors it all himself and stuff, and it tastes like you're drinking like the syrup out of a can of peaches.
Can of peaches.
All right, we got to move on because we're late.
Wait a minute, I was trying to write that down, Aaron. It's a peach. I'm going to get with Miss Trosper and Katherine on this peach moonshine.
All right, you guys do that. I'm going to take us through the next item, which is our call to action. So we've got a very important 3-step process right now to help our state. Right. So we say it a lot. We want to turn Kentucky purple. Why do we say that? Because we're kernels of truth. We're not kernels of hyperbole. We can't say we're going to turn our state blue anytime soon. It's going to take a process. It's going to take some work. If we're paying attention to the maps, which the GOP just slammed through last week, we know that the gerrymandering is real, and it's going to make our lives harder for a while politically. But we're not messing around. We're going to make our state more politically engaged. We're going to win more progressive representation, and we have a plan to do it. But we need your support to make it happen. So we're pulling the trigger on our postcarding campaign, our mailing campaign. We've talked about it a lot. They're ordered, they're printed. I'm picking them up tomorrow, but we need you to help handwrite notes on 1,500 postcards to potential activists and allies across the bluegrass. So that is a really important way to make sure that these postcards stand out in your news, in your mailbox, and you take action to help make our state better. So that's going to feed directly into our new economic messaging, canvassing, and phone banking. Here's our 3-point plan. So number 1, take action right now. 2 actions you can do. Are you outraged by Rand Paul versus Fauci? You can sign a petition to demand the Kentucky Medical Licensing Board investigate Senator Dr. Paul's bad medical advice during this pandemic, highlighted, of course, by this week's embarrassing exchange with Dr. Fauci. We know Rand Paul is using his perceived medical expertise to confuse and misinform people about the pandemic and its cause, and then the effective public health measures to take. So you can take action there. Click on that, sign the petition. You can also send a message to your lawmakers that we were just talking about. You can send an email to your lawmakers saying that you want them to quit blocking Andy at every step, and you want them to move together, work together to move our Commonwealth forward. Those are 2 actions you could take. One of those would be awesome. Both of those would be even better. And then the second step is volunteer to help our postcarding campaign. So adding the handwritten notes to our other bluegrass voters, urging them to get involved in the work to turn our Commonwealth purple. You can sign up online. I'm actually going to be at West 6 Thursday. Come by 6 p.m., pick up your postcards to sign. We're sending out 1,500 postcards, so we're going to need you to handwrite 100. Say, hey, join our all-volunteer campaign. We need your help to turn our state more compassionate, more progressive. The third step, join our door-to-door or phone canvassing effort. Help us determine the best, most powerful ways to discuss economic issues with rural county voters. The voters we are going to need to support progressive policies and politicians if we're ever going to see a more compassionate Commonwealth. The organizing will be critical to persuade more people to vote for politicians who will stand against the GOP's anti-worker, anti-teacher, anti-public health agenda, and to turn out these voters and win close elections. So there's a link you can sign up to say you're in, say you want to help out with those efforts, whether the postcard signing or the canvassing, whatever you can do, all of it, it's really appreciated. Now is crunch time. We're in 2022. If you know what that means, that's an election year. And that means we need to be mobilizing for this election. It starts now, and we've got a 3-point plan to help make it happen. All right. I think my friend Kimberly is going to close us out, though.
Yes, I am, Aaron. This has been a tremendously great show tonight. And thank you to our guest, Miss Christina Trosper, just a wonderful woman, great educator, and she knows what she's talking about. And it's just been so great to have our new co-host tonight, Miss Katherine Mueller. It's just been wonderful and great, and a U of L alumni. And I saw that Doug Price was talking about he go UK. Whatever, Doug Price. Whatever. Yes, I'm talking to you. Okay. But anyway, you can see us back here next week at 7 p.m. Same channel, same bat time. We're going to be here with a wonderful and great guest. You never have to wonder or worry about that. And also, just a little disclaimer very quickly. I'm going to read it, that Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, organized as a 501c4, is affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, otherwise known as CAVE. Also, Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. That is everything that we are. I just read that to you. Okay. Some of the graphic content was provided by Couchfire Media, and you can go on their website, which is www.couchfiremedia.com, and you can see some of the great work that they do as well. Also, the production this evening was by our own Miss Annabelle Nagel, our own social media chair. Thank you so much for always getting the kernels of truth together. And also, you could catch me not this Sunday, but the next Sunday. I forgot the date. Aaron, do you know the date? Not this Sunday, but the next.
Next Sunday is the Sunday coming is the 16th, and the next Sunday is the 23rd.
Okay, well, on the 23rd, we'll come back to the Jones Report, and you can go to the Facebook page, which is the Jones Report radio program. And we talk a lot about national and international topics and a sprinkling of local from time to time with myself and my best sidekick, Miss Betsy Foster. Also, you like the music that you heard? Go on our own Kernels of Truth, Nate Orshan's website, to natosongs.com. That's NATO songs.com. And you can see a lot of his accomplishments on there, and I promise you'll love his music. So if you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook, don't worry, because you can always go back on our Facebook page on Progress Kentucky and see the replay. Or you could go on anywhere where audio podcasts are available, like Apple, Google, Spotify, or just wherever you get your podcast. And like I say every week, do something nice for somebody this week. It doesn't take a lot for a smile. Pick up the phone, say hi, text someone. I was thinking about you, especially during these times right now where the numbers are so high. So stay safe, everyone. Hey, social distance, mask up, wash your hands, and then we'll see you next week. Bye.